I've been watching a few videos on and off online and just getting a gist of what this social justice warriors and all these people are about. I kind of left me scratching my head. Like, to be honest, this Bering guy, which I've been watching on and off, he's not too bad. He has some points of view, but he's not inherently racist. He's not inherently bigoted towards people, and I think the problem is he's being perceived as that. What he's trying to do is add a sense of humour to things, which I understand. I do totally understand. To be honest, I kind of get why you have to have a sense of humour. You can't have the entirety of your life just spent up and so fucking overreactive to everything that happens in your life that you just simply turn to mush every time somebody has an argument about something, whether it's to the left or the right or whatever. Sorry, just turn this down for a second. But the thing that's getting me the most is I'm the type of person I support gay rights, transgender, gay, lesbian. I'm bisexual myself. I support all this stuff. But I also see the point of what Bering is getting with some of the arguments he's coming across with. Some of these arguments that people are trying to fabricate or put forward are just so ridiculous that they're utterly just... They're pointless. They're not just pointless, they're fabricated arguments. They're fiction. They're made up. They're using made up words, they're using made up propaganda half the time, and it's kind of ridiculous that people are that far into it. We as a society are getting so politically fucking correct that we seem to fall into that category of we're so sensitive about things these days that we can't take a joke. We can't simply take a joke and a bit of a laugh about something. And you know what? You got to be able to laugh, otherwise life is just joyless and fucking pathetic. And, you know, not just joyless, but you're always getting angry about everything. You're always getting offended about everything. Why do people need to get offended about every fucking little tiny ounce of a thing that comes out of someone's mouth? I mean, to be honest, you know, there's always going to be somebody who gets offended, but Jesus Christ, it's ridiculous the amount of people that I've seen that get offended for no fucking perfectly logical reason. I'm one of these people, I take everything I get with, or everything I see on the internet with a grain of salt. You always do. You don't marginalise yourself, but you try to put things in perspective when you're looking at stuff and content. If something's meant to be comedic or parody, you take it as that. If something's meant to be funny, if it's not meant to be funny, not just that, if something's meant to be taken as an offensive thing, I mean, hateful content, you know, like some of the shit that I've seen with some of these people, you know, like, especially the way they treat it. I don't know. I don't get it. I really personally don't get it. We live in such a sensitive society that we seem to think that... Well, the other side of it too is... Another thing about these pronouns and everything else don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against trans people. I don't have anything against them. I don't have anything against people identifying as another gender and transferring to another gender. But the other side of it too is, you know, this thing of there's more than two sexes and there's all these different sexes and stuff. I mean, I sort of see some of it, I don't see all of it. I see bits and pieces of it, to be honest. I kind of think, well, okay, I can understand people wanting to be called a certain name and having a certain thing, but I mean, people going to jail for simply calling somebody something, a gender that they're not, or something like that, or some stupid thing like that. The other side of it too is people like Bering and other, like, anti-feminist type people, you look at them, they're not all directing, they're just using common sense and logic and intelligence in the situation. They're not being stupid about it. They're not, I mean, they're taking the piss out of someone, but that's typically what Aussies do. I know that I take the piss out of people plenty of times in my life, and I just, you know, it's just a bit of fun. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's not meant to be taken as a it's not meant to be taken. It's meant to be taken as satire. See, I mean, you gotta understand that. Satire, parody, all this stuff. All that type of stuff. What I don't understand, I guess, in the long run, is that, the other side of it too is a lot of men get marginalised and this is true. This is what I have noticed. And don't get me wrong, I won't deny victims of sexual abuse or otherwise, or a combination of things like that. I won't deny that they didn't get abused, and I won't deny that it didn't happen. Not just that, my mum was, in my case, my mum was a person who was abused when she was younger, so there was a lot of shit she was going through and everything else. And to be honest, I get why people get so up in arms about it, but I also think sometimes you've got to sit back, relax, and just take a bit of a joke towards, not just joke, but you've got to generally have a relaxed, chilled mindset. If you're constantly always on and up about things and always on the defensive, how do you feel good about yourself? How do you feel good that the world, is the way it is? I mean, okay. He's, like, some people have claimed, just because you're an anti-feminist or something like that, that you're a supposed, you're a supposed neo-Nazi or something like that, or you have these leanings, you're racist, you're bigoted, you don't want equality. And that's not the truth. That's not the truth of the situation. It kind of, as I said, people seem to need to grow a bit of a thicker skin when it comes to this stuff, because if simple things are offending you like that, how can you ever function in the world, and how can you truly be part of the world if those little tiny things are going to be the things that are always going to offend you? At the end of it, it's about freedom of expression as well, freedom of speech, which, to be honest, should be something that we should have in society. People should be able the freedom to say what they need to say about something in a situation. I don't necessarily agree with all Christians. I don't necessarily agree with all people, all the time. But I understand and I try to empathise from their point of view. I'm for equality. I'm for equal opportunity. I'm for all those things. But I'm also at the other side of it too, where I think, well, what the fuck is going on here? Like, are we that bad that we can't even say something that's a bit controversial? You know what I mean? And that's the problem with a lot of the topics that have been covered by people like him and other YouTubers, is they get misconstrued by a lot of others as being racist or hateful. No, they're not hateful. It's pointing out the obvious when somebody's being a complete fucking dumbass and not dealing with the facts and not actually putting points across. I'm the type of person who's always pushed the envelope in whatever I may talk about or how I feel about things. I've always been the type of person who has a lot of different beliefs to other people, and you know what, I don't challenge other people's beliefs because of it, but I do argue points. I do like to debate. I feel the need to debate, I guess, if it's something that I feel strongly about. Not just that I feel strongly about, something that I think is a bit stupid and is a bit just like, what the hell is going on with people? Like, why are people being so stupid? The other side of it too is the content that I've seen on channels like Bearings and other, YouTube channels of that nature, which I've watched a couple of others as well, is not hateful. It's not really designed to be hateful. It's designed to challenge your thinking. It's designed to make you think outside the box. Not just that, but it's designed to point out that maybe there's people in this world who are wrong about some of the things they've said. And just because a person is wrong doesn't mean that, or just because a person has an opinion doesn't mean that it's always right. That's the other side of it too. I've learned a lot. I've learned that you've got to be smart about a lot of this stuff. Like, you've got to be informed. You've got to have the facts in front of you. And I think the problem is a lot of people don't have the facts either. They don't check the scientific facts. They don't read through articles. They don't go through specific things. And this is what ends up causing all the problems, the initial issues. Now, do I believe that Barry doesn't have some points that maybe he needs to be, maybe there's some points that he's a bit, what's the word I'm looking for here? I'd say that there are definitely points that there's a few points I disagree with, there's a few points I agree with. And it's mostly him taking the piss out of people, and that's what it's pretty much down to. But the way he does it is pretty kind. It's not mean, it's not hateful, it's not designed to cause people problems. And, you know, just because a few nutcases decide ultimately that they're going to go off on a tangent and like start speaking in other comment sections and everything else. I mean, there's plenty of people, there's plenty of nasty comments on the internet. You know, I mean, it's part and parcel of being on the internet. You're going to get trolled, not just trolled, but you're going to get ramroded into a lot of comments and stuff, and people are going to want a reaction. So, you know, just for lols, as he says. That's the thing. What you've got to realise is that there's always going to be people out there like that. You're not going to be able to change their viewpoint. You're not going to be able to force them to change their viewpoint. If you offer a logical, sensible argument and you come across to them as a reasonable human being, they'll listen to you. And they might even listen to you and change their opinion on something, depending on the situation. So the best way to approach it is that. And it's kind of stupid, really, that people don't think that way. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you I don't care whether you're bisexual, whether you, whatever you may be. My point is, you've got to understand that these people have come to the extreme point in their lives, you know, like, they've got to that extreme point in their lives where they're just, everything bothers them and everything triggers them. Now, I've had some things that have triggered me in the past about some things in my life. I'm triggered about pedophiles in particular, just because I hate the fucking bastards. But, you know, I think most people are triggered to some degree by pedophilia in general as a rule. Not just that, but there's people who campaign against that type of stuff. There's people who go hunting them and stuff like that. And, you know, I honestly don't have a problem with that. Extremism is something I don't agree with either. Extremism to a degree where you're trying to kill people, you're trying to hurt people, you're constantly coming at them, trying to destroy their lives, is a bit fucked, to be honest. I kind of don't get that. I don't get the whole mentality of, you know, destroy the person's life because you have nothing better to do. Which it seems like some people are that way. They just want to destroy people's lives. I don't know, I'm yet to understand, ultimately, I guess, is my camera angle right? It's fucking annoying. It should be alright. But the point that I'm trying to make is that, I'm yet to understand some people's point of views, especially with the extremist views they have towards things, especially, you know, whether it's toppling down somebody simply because they don't agree with their viewpoint. I mean, look, to be honest, I do agree with a lot of people, but I can disagree with somebody at the same time. And I can also agree to disagree, sort of thing. You know, it's like, oh, well, fuck it, you know. Maybe you don't see my viewpoint, but that's alright. I don't necessarily have to sit there and try and prove it to you if I don't want to. I don't have to drive it so like a nail in your fucking coffin all the time and, like, you know, say that I'm going to kill you because you don't conform to my pattern of behaviour. And that's a lot of things. There's a mental mindset thing going on with a lot of people. They seem to get stuck in these mental mindsets that relate to primarily and mostly how they perceive the world, how they perceive things. Now, it's very easy to perceive that we live in a misogynistic world. That's true. I don't think everybody's misogynistic. I think there's definitely some males out there who are, and I'm not arguing that. I'm not gonna argue that there isn't some misogynistic assholes out there that definitely deserve the attention of people who want to go after them. But the other side of it too is why, I mean, condoning violence? Really? We live in a civilized society where people should act like adults, you know, have a proper discussion, sit down and talk about things, you know. instead of sitting there and getting angry and all flustered and getting so angry that we can't even focus anymore. It's not just that, it's I've only ever had a few people do that to me, and it's only been typically a narcissistic arsehole or a narcissistic psychopath. And normally arguing with those types of people is just redundant. You can't get through to those type of people because they're never going to listen to you in the first place. But anybody who has a mature, reasonable conversation with you is a good person. But are these anti-feminist YouTubers and stuff like that a bad thing? I don't think so, because they push the controversial envelope. They show what's wrong with society, what needs adjusting. Do I think that all... Do I not believe in feminism? No. I'm not really a feminist. I believe that women deserve equal rights. Don't get me wrong. I believe that women deserve equality. But there's also a lot of women that play the system as well. If you look at a lot of the different bits and pieces that you see across the net with different people, they play the system or they play the victim. And those people who do play the victim, they just ultimately, that's what they want to do. They want to play the victim. And they want to seem like the victim to others. And that's ultimately what they're trying to do. The problem with that is that if you get a bunch of victims, and that's all it is, it's always the victim, and people always playing the victim, then you don't get anybody defending the points, and you don't get anybody arguing and debating the points with logic and intelligence and pure, just pure good mindset. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, it's sort of weird. As I said, I've always been a supporter of the different communities. I'm bisexual myself, gay, lesbian. I believe women have support for equal rights. I honestly do believe that stuff, and I honestly do feel that stuff is worth something. But I do think some of it gets misconstrued, miscommunicated, taken out of context. And ultimately, by it being taken out of context, it ends up being miscommunicated to the rest of the world, and the rest of the world thinks that person's an arsehole, that person's a dickhead. Now, do I believe that there's not some points that these people definitely could be disagreed upon? Maybe, there's some points. I'm not arguing that. I wouldn't say all points, and I'm not going to say there's everything that I disagree with Bearing and those types of YouTubers out there. But I will say, in all honesty, people seem to, there's people who resort to dirty tactics. Doxing information, stuff like that. I mean, more my information on the internet anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you do notice that with a lot of people. It's the fact that, people pushing the controversial envelope of things is always going to be a tough sell to most people, because most people don't want to hear the controversial stuff. They want to hide their head in the sand and just play ignorant. And the honest truth is there's going to be those people who do. And you know what? That's your choice. That's your choice. But I think, honestly, it's kind of stupid that you want to do that. I'd want to know what's going on in the world. Even though the world is a bit of a shithole in some ways to some degree. It's not completely in the shitter, but there is some parts of it that are. I honestly don't like Trump. I never have. I've never really been a big Trump supporter. But to say that every single person who supports Trump is a neo-Nazi and they have all these racism and stuff like that and things like that, no, it's not necessarily true, because if you look at some of the political stuff that he actually went for, and you compare him to Hillary and the other side of the spectrum and everything else, there was certain things that Hillary was definitely on the side of that was definitely screwed up. Like, she had a few things that were definitely not kosher, per se. I've kind of concluded, though, that I guess each to their own. I'm not going to judge too much. But I think sometimes, as a society, we base things purely on the fact that we think somebody's a certain way or they're a stereotype. Now, stereotypes are fucking retarded, to be honest. I don't understand why the hell people have to take into consideration that stereotypes are always the things you should see. Most people should consider me, you know, a person who has depression issues and schizophrenia and stuff to be a person who ultimately is going to be more extreme than others. This is not always the case. I mean, there's a point. I've never been one of these people. I have some shitty days, and I admit I rant and rave about some things. But that's just ranting and raving to get shit on my chest, to be honest. And it's just kind of getting crap away from what's going on in society. But, you know, I think also if you follow some of this stuff, there's a lot of extremism that does go on in certain groups, and it depends on the group. It depends on the group and the vast groups that you talk to. I think some of the groups definitely have what they call extremists or radicalists. They tend to radicalise everything. They tend to make things extreme. They go off the edge, and they fall so far off the edge that's just not funny. Now, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against people expressing their opinion, but the other side of it too is I don't condone people hurting people all the time. I mean, even though, admittedly, I would condone people hurting pedophiles and stuff like that, those types of things, but to be honest, I've kind of taken my views back on that. I've kind of looked at that and went, well, okay, as long as they are taken in by the law, and not just that, but they're actually arrested and everything else, and they're, you know, prosecuted to the full extent of the law, that's the main thing. But the system is broken too, that's the other side of it as well. I don't necessarily feel that extremism is the answer. I admit sometimes when it comes to pedophiles, I'm definitely I have gone to the more extreme sometimes with some of that shit in my past videos and stuff like that. But that's only because of the fact that my mum was abused and there was a lot of shit, emotional shit going on there, and she don't even talk to me about it and stuff like that, and there's a lot of shit going on there. So, you know, generally speaking, I admit, I think anybody would be for an act of extremism to those types of people. I was recently reading... what was it? I was recently reading, I was watching a video on YouTube which came out about pedophiles coming up in social media. And then being, you know, not just that, they're calling themselves male attracted, what do they call themselves? Male attracted something or other. I can't remember the exact, it was MAP anyway. Maps. Yeah, okay. Night, Dad. Yeah, I'll look after the dog, don't worry. What I'm yet to understand, I guess, is that this stuff is a rise in social media, and there are people out there who are using social media as a mechanism to actually continue on pedophilia and stuff like that. And that's fucked. I'm sorry, but in my mind, that's totally fucked. You never do anything like that. Those are the type of people I would convey killing, to be honest. Neo-Nazism, I mean, it's never a good thing, to be honest. Neo-Nazis, that type of stuff, no, I don't condone that either. But the other side of it too is I don't associate everybody that I come across with those types of people. And just because somebody has a statement or says a certain statement towards some of the viewpoints that the neo-Nazism may have, which, you know, that's the honest truth. It's only because they said a couple of viewpoints that seem like neo-Nazism when they're not. Or fascism, for example. I'm against fascism too. I'm against all that shit. And I kind of just leaves me scratching my head, in all honesty, as to what the fuck is going on with a lot of people's mindsets when it comes to this stuff. Don't associate one person with one particular group or one particular... Just because somebody looks like a pedophile or something, or looks like a fucking retard, you know, or looks a particular way, a stereotype. Like, that's my point. The stereotyping thing is what I don't get. Stereotyping people into a category is just going to get you into trouble on the internet, especially these days, and it's more common than not. And it's kind of like, what the actual fuck is going on in people's minds that they have to associate just because somebody's anti-feminist, that they're neo-Nazis and they're all this other shit, and they're racist and they're bigoted and they have all this shit. Now, bigotry and racism is a big issue. I won't argue that, and I'm not going to say that it's not true. That it's not true. Sorry, I had to turn the camera back on. I'm not going to say that's not true. But the truth of the situation is, there's plenty of people out there who, you know, just because they have a different viewpoint to you does not mean that they're on the extreme end of the spectrum, you know? As somebody who's I've got a bit of Asperger's and stuff like that and things like that, and I mean, you know, to be honest, people have had, you know, I've noticed with Bering, he has a bit of a go at people with autism and stuff like that, and sort of, you know, he has a bit of a nudge at him. But you know what? I'm all for that. I'm all for having a bit of a joke. I can have a joke about myself, about joking my extreme points. Not just that, my talking points. I can talk for more than 25 minutes straight, you know, talking about a subject or whatever, or things that I want to talk about. And the truth is, I know I can do that. I know it makes me good at what I'm good. It makes me good at what I'm good at, which is IT and computers and everything else. And I figure in the long run, it's not a bad thing. Well, I don't think it is anyway. But there is some people definitely who get so obsessed about things, so far obsessed, in which somebody who has OCD, to be honest, somebody who has that condition, I honestly feel somebody who has that condition, there's no problems with that. You know, like there's no problems with having a go at someone. Like, I've done a bit of trolling and stuff in the past. Nothing too extreme, but I've done stuff, you know, where I just have a bit of a go at somebody, you know, have a bit of a muck around with them and things like that. And I was just mucking around. I mean, I've mucked around with people and just pretended to be people I wasn't and things like that, and just done stupid stuff and just, you know, mucked it. Typical thing of mucking around as an Aussie. You do that. It's just something you tend to do anyway, when you're online, especially. Bering and all these other, like, anti-feminists and all these other groups, even some of the other people that have come across in different videos, Bering in particular, because I've been watching a lot of his videos, and he makes a lot of good points. He doesn't make bad points, that's my point. I don't think that he's right on every single subject, and some things he could be a little more sensitive about, but that's his choice whether he wants to be sensitive about it. If he's going to be a bit of a cunt about it, that's his choice. Ultimately, he can be a bit of a cunt. There's plenty of people in life who are cunts. And that's pretty much the Aussie mentality, to be a bit of a cunt about things occasionally. Because you've got to be a cunt. I mean, if you... I don't know. I don't think you cannot go on the internet without being a bit of a cunt about things. And that's pretty much the language we use as Australians, you know, like we call people a cunt or whatever. And it's not directed as a... it's not directed as a insult. It's more directed as a... Sometimes it can be a term of phrase. Sometimes it can be praising someone in some ways. It can also be someone taking... I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking the piss out of someone either, especially if they're fucking yammering on about shit and they're not making any sense at all whatsoever. Like, they're making no logical sense. They have no sensibility. They have no general understanding of what the hell they're talking about. Or it seems like they're just yammering on about the same shit over and over again. Which, to be honest, that's how some people are all come across. Because I've noticed that with a few people, especially some of the social justice warriors. And I'm not, you know, denying that social justice isn't it's not a bad thing, but it's a sort of a shitty thing too. If you mistreat people and get away with certain things and get away with mistreating people pretty badly, you know, that's fucking retarded. And what the fuck's going on there? I'll be honest. I've never tried to strip somebody's beliefs down. I've never tried to force somebody into believing what I believe. I've never been one of those types of people. But I will say... Sorry, my dog's going off. Ah! What are you doing? dog. Sorry, my dog was being a bit of a pain in the ass. So, the point that I was trying to make is that with most of this stuff, sorry, my dog's been a bit of a pain in my rectum at the moment, but in all honesty, what I'm tending to find with most of these people is that their arguments, they tend to use complex words, but they don't define what they're trying to say. Not just that, but they tend to yammer on. My dog's licking the bowl that's beside my fucking table. It's alright, he's quiet. But it's beside my desk. So anyway, I sort of lost momentum on what I was saying, but the point that I was trying to make is that a lot of these people try to make logical arguments, they try to make sensible arguments, but they're using a lot of stuff that is non-existent to current facts and science, which you find that with a lot of these people, especially, it can be either possibly, sometimes transgender people, sometimes it's also feminists as well, having the arguments that this means this when it doesn't mean that. If you look at all the facts and all the actual facts that are around, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's like anything. Everything's open to a wide berth of interpretation. It doesn't matter whether it's religious texts or otherwise. And it kind of leaves me scratching my head in amazement with some of these people and how they perceive this stuff that they're saying. You know, like if they were to listen back and just think about what they're saying and think, well, okay, hold on a second, why am I saying this when it's not even a logical or intelligent argument to start with? Then, you know, they'd be a lot better. Sorry, my dog's... What are you doing? Fucking dog. But, like, that's the thing. What I found with some of these people is that, you know, for example, the whole it, they, gender point of view, like, whether it's a pronoun for, like having jail time for saying certain things or making a joke. Now, edgy jokes are, I'm sort of 50-50 with edgy jokes. I get edgy jokes, but I also think sometimes edgy jokes go a little too far, and maybe there's situations where they definitely aren't warranted, and there could be a re-examine of perhaps the reason why somebody went so far with it. But I also think it's good to have a sense of humour. It's also be able to, you know, laugh at yourself as well. You've got to be able to laugh at yourself. Political correctness has gone mad in this world, so much so that we're, you know, like taking, you know, pretty much trying to do anything really edgy or something like that can be a big issue for people. Especially people who are in certain communities. Now, I'm not saying all communities, gay, lesbian, or otherwise, but there's certain communities, whether it's feminist communities or whatever, and stuff like that, like, they... Dog? Sorry. Come here. Why the fuck are you barking? Anyway, I'll leave it there for now, but this is pretty much my video, just addressing some of the anti-feminist type YouTubers and everything else on YouTube, just interested in some of the points of view that I think that they definitely, put it this way, I don't agree with everything, but there's definitely a lot of funny stuff. They take the piss out of things, which I like. And some of them don't just take the piss, some of them are just stating simply facts. And there's nothing wrong with stating facts. If you're stating facts, what's wrong with stating facts? And having common sense. I mean, we've come to a world where those things seem to have gotten lost. So much so in this world that, in comparison to what they used to be, that they're just ridiculous in the sense, oh, you know, fuck, what the hell, you know, so for the fact that we have so much common sense these days, well, we don't. Sorry, that's what I meant to say, and I'll correct myself. For the fact that we don't have that many people with that much common sense these days, in the sense of how they treat things, that's when the issues start, especially with other YouTubers, other tweets, things like that. I mean, Twitter and... See, I've always been partial to... I'm open to criticism, and I'm open to people criticising my way of doing things. I won't argue with that. I'm open to people looking at my videos and saying, well, you could probably do better or something like that, or, you know, people... I've definitely had people just directly insult me, you know what I mean? Which I understand. But you've also got to understand, you're going to get that anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's on the internet or whether it's in fucking real life. You're going to get the combination of those two things in real life and on the internet. And you've got to grow a bit of a thick skin towards it. You can't just avoid it. You can't just not avoid it. Well, you can avoid it, but the problem with avoiding it is you don't grow a sense of a sheet of armor, a suit of armor to protect yourself from it. And that's the thing. You've got to be able to grow a bit of armor and a bit of a bit of strength behind you before you can actually get on the internet and publicize yourself, especially if you're publicizing yourself on the internet. Because you're going to get criticism. Criticism is a big part of the internet. It's a big part of human nature. So, unfortunately, it's just the way it works. I'm just going to leave it there anyway. Thank you for now. I'm going to put this video up anyway. But I just thought I'd talk about anti-feminists and some of the videos I've been watching lately on YouTube. My views on what I feel some of these anti-feminists are doing, why they shouldn't be categorised into this category, things like that, and stuff of that nature. So we'll see what happens anyway. Alright, okay, catch ya, bye.